Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me, Andrew Yarrow, the Director of Engineering, and Rodney West, one of the senior Atlassian consultants here at ISO Technology. We're going to be discussing whether Jira merge migrations can save you money. So there's a couple of different benefits of merging your Jira instances. The first is cost savings. If you have users that are in multiple Jira instances, you're paying for each user in those instances, in both the cloud and on-premise. A couple other places that you can do, having it in one instance will help you implement your security enforcement policies in one place, not have to re-implement them in multiple places. It'll also help you with decreasing maintenance and administrative costs. So there'll be one instance that you can implement both front end and back end changes to, and it allows you to only implement the change in one place and not have to do it in multiple instances.
So some of the big ones that I see, the first one is improved governance. It's basically you're making sure your organization, everybody is going to be using Jira or Confluence the same way, and you have a centralized location to actually enforce processes, which is, whenever I first started doing this, it took a bit to appreciate really the weight of the governance term. But that really is the big strength to having everything, at least from my perspective, going on the configuration side, having everything merged into single instances. And the second part, which kind of falls out of the increased governance and basically having your processes more consolidated, is you have increased tool adoption. So one of the worst things you have whenever you shell out a lot of money for a tool is you put it out there, nobody knows how to use it. There's nobody you can ask to use it. Everybody you ask, you get a different answer on how you use it. And so you just go, you know what? I'm just going to go back to using a Word document or an Excel sheet to, track issues or just have all of my stuff stored, and we'll just pass that around in a shared file. Whenever you actually do have everything consolidated and everybody's using the tools the same, and there's somebody you can go to when you need help, and there is a clear path, that makes it to where more people adopt the tool. And as people come into the organization, it becomes just the de facto way they do things. And so I think the governance and the increased adoption are really some key strengths for you to get the most out of the money you're spending on these tools and on the migration efforts. So I would say, one of the primary disadvantages is there is a lot you need to know about the tools. Atlassian tools, Jira, Confluence, specifically, can be very complex. And so, it's one of those where you do the migration and you're banging your head against the wall because you don't know why X, Y, or Z isn't going across. And, part of the reason for that is you may do a Google search and you get the first few results, but you're looking in the wrong places. You're checking the wrong resources to find out why you're having the problems. It's one of those, over time you can learn where that information is. But on the other side, when you go with someone who's a solution partner, they're probably already going to know, if they don't have an answer to the problem, they're going to know the quickest paths to actually get an answer, or, who to raise those questions up to, whether it's an app vendor or whether it's, to Atlassian or some other place, right? It's knowing where to get the knowledge, right? That's one of the most important things whenever planning out your merge migrations is being able to research, right? You need to be able to find the information that you need in a timely manner, and the second thing in there, and this is something, we see whenever we go in and help people with the migrations after they've done their initial attempt, is they spend 3 months, 6 months on a migration effort and it doesn't work. And so now you're having to pull everything back out of the system, which means basically you paid 6 months for X number of people to perform this. You lost that much time. And now you're actually having to pay somebody to help you do the migration. So it ends up being a compounded loss in both the scope of time and money that you've spent if you have to rip things out later. One of the other big things is, environments may change quickly. There's patches going out, and Atlassian is really good on sending out their patch notes. and trying to not have, hey, here's a patch this week and a patch this week and a patch this week. But the environment does change. And while you're spending this time to gather the knowledge you need to do your own migrations, there may be underlying changes that now you got to do an additional piece of research because you weren't able to get it done quickly enough and the environment changed under you. So in addition to having to have the knowledge on how to do the migration, you're also having to have the knowledge on environmental changes that you're aware of and ones that may be coming down the pipe. So, that all kind of equates to a situation where you may have a lot of cost in both dollars and resource time that basically you end up tossing away because you end up having to have somebody else come in and actually do the migration later on for you. And so those are kind of some of the reasons that I see, and Andrew may have some additional ones as well, more from the technical side.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we see a lot of is that when people attempt their own migrations, they use a lot of different resources, whether they be community postings or Google or interviews, and they've found best practices or inconsistent best practices that have been applied by other people. And one of the things that we've developed over time is our own internal best practices that we've had a lot of success in these merge migrations that allow us to be much more efficient, hit the ground running in a way that you wouldn't be able to do on your own. I think the other piece to it is, as Rodney mentioned, the cloud is always changing. So, having somebody who is in the cloud all the time, able to kind of keep up with the rate of change and not have to, find one method of doing the migration and then having to change gears, we can typically hit the ground running there as well with, knowing the changes that are being made in the Atlassian environment.
Thank you for joining me and Andrew Yarrow today on this discussion on how Jira merge migration can save you money. Please visit www.isostech.com to look for additional cloud migration resources. Thank you.